Look at your phone right now.
Yeah, or just think about it for a second, you know.
Right. I mean, consider the notifications waiting for you. The unread emails, the calendar invites.
And that never-ending to-do list running on a loop in the back of your head.
Exactly. We live in a world that is just obsessed with action.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are constantly bombarded with the message that we need to optimize our routines, hustle harder, achieve more.
Fix all our personal flaws.
Yeah, and somehow fix the entire world while we're at it, right?
Exhausting.
But what if the ultimate goal in life wasn't to figure out how to do more?
Okay.
What if the absolute pinnacle of human existence was reaching a state where there's absolutely nothing left to do?
I mean, it completely inverts the way modern society conditions us to navigate our life.
It really does.
Usually we look at doing nothing and we equate it with failure or laziness or just this deeply concerning apathy. But the philosophical framework we are unpacking today frames this concept of having, nothing left to do, not as giving up, but as the ultimate triumph of the human mind.
And that is exactly why today is going to be a bit of a paradigm shift for you listening.
Definitely.
We're taking a deep dive into a profound and quite radical concept of absolute surrender and non-action.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Our source material today is a deeply spiritual text by an author named Su Feng. It's titled, "With Nothing Left to Do, One Becomes a Celestial Being or a Buddha."
Quite the title.
Right.
Right.
And for you listening, especially if you are the kind of person who is constantly learning, trying to improve yourself, setting new goals.
Which is probably most of you.
Yeah, exactly. The idea of having no ideals and no pursuits is going to sound deeply counterintuitive.
It's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way at first.
So our mission today is to deconstruct this text. We want to discover whether doing nothing is just a recipe for checking out of life, or if it might actually be the most efficient shortcut to true psychological freedom.
And emotional invincibility, really. The text establishes its core premise right out of the gate with this very clear dividing line.
Okay, what is it?
It states, basically, before enlightenment, everything seems worth doing. But after enlightenment, there is nothing left to do.
Wow. Okay.
But to understand this, we have to immediately address the most obvious misconception.
Right, because when we hear nothing to do, we picture total paralysis.
Exactly. We imagine someone just lying on a couch, staring at the ceiling for eternity.
Yeah, just completely checked out.
But the text anticipates this, and it explicitly clarifies that it does not mean becoming like a lifeless stone or a motionless piece of wood.
Okay, so it's not about physical stagnation.
Yeah, at all.
Let's unpack that, because it's a tricky balance to strike, right?
It really is.
It sounds less like a rock sitting heavy at the bottom of the ocean and more like a surfer out on the water.
Oh, a surfer. I like that.
Yeah, because the surfer isn't trying to punch the wave,
Right. They aren't trying to force the ocean to change its tide.
Exactly. And they aren't trying to build a brick wall against the water. They are just completely supple.
Adaptable?
Yeah. Dynamically reacting to the energy and the opportunities as they arise, rather than trying to, manufacture that energy from scratch.
The surfer is a really great way to visualize the physical reality of this philosophy.
Thanks.
Because the text describes this enlightened state as being supple and harmonious with all things, moving in complete alignment with nature.
So you are still taking action?
Yes, you're taking action as opportunities present themselves in your environment. However, the internal landscape of that surfer is what really matters here.
How so?
Well, the text introduces a massive caveat. It says you can take action, but you must have no pursuit, no prayer, no ideals, no wishes, and absolutely no desires.
Okay, I have to pause and challenge that premise.
Go for it.
I mean, how do human beings function without a single goal? Literally everything we do is driven by a desire, right? Making a cup of coffee is driven by a desire for caffeine.
Yeah.
Building a career is driven by a desire for stability or, making an impact.
Sure, yeah.
If you completely eliminate the ideal you are striving for, where does the motivation to even get out of bed come from?
What's fascinating here is how the text answers that exact problem by distinguishing between two different enlightened states.
Okay, what are they?
It talks about the Buddha and the celestial being.
Right.
According to the author, a Buddha rests in nirvana, just absolute tranquility. But a celestial being operates a bit differently.
How so?
For them, all of life simply becomes a game. Action still happens.
Okay.
To use your analogy, the surfer still paddles out and rides the wave. But the action is stripped entirely of ego, of rigid attachment, and crucially, of the anxiety surrounding the outcome.
Ah, I see.
You aren't surfing to prove to the beach that you are the best surfer. You aren't surfing to win a trophy.
You are simply playing the game of surfing because the wave just happens to be there.
Exactly.
So you lose the worry, the fear, the preference. I mean, the text even mentions losing the self entirely.
Yes.
You are still participating in the mechanics of life, but without that desperate, white-knuckled grip on needing things to turn out a specific way.
And that desperate need for a specific outcome is exactly what the author identifies as the root source of human suffering.
Which makes sense.
Right. But if you strip away your own ambitions and your urge to force your personal ideals onto the world, you need a different compass.
You need something else to guide your actions.
Exactly. And the text points to the concept of the Tao.
The natural order.
Yes. Once enlightened, you supposedly see that everything operates within this natural order, and your only requirement is just to follow it effortlessly.
But what happens if we decide our own goals are, more important than that natural flow?
Well, the author doesn't mince words about the consequences there.
Yeah, the text argues that acting intentionally, meaning forcing your own will onto a situation or trying to engineer an outcome that isn't naturally occurring, is a direct opposition to the Tao.
And doing that guarantees endless troubles, constant pain, frequent disasters, and just unceasing anxiety.
It creates immense psychological friction.
We all know that feeling, right? Swimming upstream until we are just totally exhausted.
Yeah, but the philosophy here goes much further than just telling us not to overwork ourselves.
It really does. It challenges our fundamental perception of causality.
Right.
The source argues that all creation and destruction, all rewards and punishments, they're determined by heaven, which we can understand here as just the ultimate natural order.
Not some guy in the sky.
Right. Just the natural order. It is not up to oneself and it is not up to others. The text literally says heaven alone sustains or extinguishes.
Okay, I want to push back on this pretty hard.
I figured you might.
There is a line in the text that says, once enlightened, you realize there are no truly hateful people in the world, no one in need of rescue, no talent waiting to be cultivated, and no one to assist.
Yeah, that's a heavy line.
Wait, no one to rescue? I really struggled to reconcile that.
It's tough.
I mean, if you are an emergency room doctor or a social worker, your literal job is to rescue people.
Of course.
Are we supposed to tell a paramedic that their efforts to save a life are somehow upsetting a cosmic balance? Doesn't this philosophy just totally dismiss human compassion?
This raises an important question, and it really is the most difficult hurdle for the modern mind to clear when reading this kind of Eastern philosophy.
Yeah, it feels like it's saying just let people suffer.
But we have to look closely at the mechanism of how we help others. The text isn't telling the ER doctor to drop their scalpel and walk out of the hospital.
Okay, good.
The doctor still plays the game of medicine. What the author is attacking is the ego-driven intervention.
Ah, okay, the ego.
Right. When the doctor saves a life, the unenlightened mind says, I conquered death. I am the savior.
And if the patient dies?
The unenlightened mind says, I failed. I am responsible for this tragedy. My identity is ruined.
Yeah.
The text claims that this man-made intervention, this belief that we individually control the ultimate scales of life and death, that is what upsets the internal cosmic balance.
Okay, so the action of applying the bandage remains exactly the same, but the internal narrative completely changes.
Exactly.
You apply the bandage because that is just the natural action to take in that moment, but you don't tie your psychological well-being to whether the wound actually heals.
Furthermore, the text challenges us to examine how often our frantic, everyday attempts to fix other people actually just create more damage.
Oh, that hits close to home.
Think about our personal relationships, right? We often try to force a friend to change their habits because we genuinely think we are rescuing them.
Or we micromanage a project at work to ensure it perfectly matches our ideal vision.
Exactly. And the author argues that every gain forced by this kind of human intervention comes at a greater unseen loss.
Because of the friction.
Yes. The friction of trying to control what simply isn't ours to control just breeds resentment and burnout.
That makes a lot of sense in the context of daily stress. Trying to help someone who doesn't want help usually just ruins the friendship anyway.
It almost always does.
The text states there are no great matters in the world, no pressing affairs, nothing worth agonizing over.
Nothing at all.
It claims everything is preordained and human effort just cannot resist the rising and falling of the tides.
So taking that concept to its logical conclusion means we have to address what happens to the human mind when it actually accepts this total lack of control.
What happens?
Well, if we truly internalize that we cannot dictate the tides, the economy, or the behavior of our peers, the psychological landscape undergoes a radical leveling.
Yeah, the author describes an existence where worry totally dissolves,
Mm.
but it goes to extremes.
It does.
The text claims there is no fear of death. There is no joy in birth. You are not elated by financial gain, and you are not saddened by profound loss.
It portrays a state of absolute, unbreakable equanimity.
Yeah.
The text explicitly states that an enlightened mind sees emperors and beggars as no different.
That's wild.
Wealth and poverty, nobility and lowliness, praise and insult, all of it is viewed as having equal value.
Even loved ones and enemies become indistinguishable in the grand scheme of the Tao.
Right.
I was trying to wrap my head around how a normal person could possibly experience that without feeling completely, dead inside.
It's a valid concern.
And I kept thinking about massive open world video games.
Oh, okay. I love this. Where are you going with this?
Well, when you first start playing, you are incredibly stressed. You want to level up. You need to hoard all the gold. You want to beat the boss.
You're fully invested.
Right. And you get genuinely angry if another player steals your loot.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine you suddenly discover a glitch in the game and you realize the points literally do not matter.
The scoreboard is fake.
Entirely fake.
Yeah.
Once you realize that, you don't necessarily turn off the console, right? You keep playing.
Sure.
But you stop sweating. You stop gripping the controller so tightly. You just start walking around the digital world, appreciating the graphics, exploring the map.
Yeah, just interacting with the environment without the underlying anxiety of winning or losing.
Exactly.
That analogy perfectly captures the essence of the celestial being wandering through life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you are still in the environment, but the stakes have been completely neutralized.
The pressure is gone.
In this state, the text emphasizes that an enlightened person actually devotes their heart and strength to everything they do. They let each thing fulfill its purpose.
But crucially, they do not steal nature's credit.
Right. They don't obscure the creator's intent.
They don't try to take credit for the sunset.
Or for their own temporary successes in life.
Yeah.
It describes a state filled with profound gratitude and joy, where one communes with the spirit of heaven and earth.
Sounds beautiful.
The imagery the author uses is expansive, thoughts transcending rivers and mountains, consciousness roaming freely between the macrocosm of the universe and the microcosm of a single leaf.
Because you are completely unattached, which means you are free everywhere. It paints an incredibly peaceful, almost poetic picture, drifting lightly, gliding freely.
It does.
But, it is very easy for us to sit here in a studio with our basic needs met and discuss cosmic equanimity in abstract terms.
Oh, for sure.
The author does not let the reader off the hook that easily, though.
No, he doesn't.
The source material suddenly pivots from these lofty floating ideas into a rapid-fire list of brutal real-world scenarios.
It serves as the ultimate let-it-be stress test.
Yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the philosophy only holds weight if it can survive contact with actual human suffering.
The source really forces the reader to confront what this radical detachment looks like in the mud and grit of everyday life.
It does. The text lists these extreme life events and essentially commands the reader to just accept them.
Right.
It starts mildly enough, right?
Yeah.
The wind is rising, let it blow. It begins to rain, let it fall.
We can all agree we can't control the weather.
Right. But then it gets deeply personal. It says, if your child has average intelligence and cannot enter university, let him herd cattle.
I mean, in our modern hyper-competitive culture, that is practically heresy.
It really is.
It directly attacks modern parenting anxieties and our deep-seated obsession with status, legacy, and academic achievement.
We spend decades trying to engineer our children's futures.
And the text just says, let them herd cattle.
And it doesn't stop there.
Nope.
It says, if the wife wants a divorce, so be it. If the parents are ready to go, let them go. If illness comes, let it come.
It's relentless.
If there's nowhere to stay, build a thatched hut and sleep in it. If there's nothing to eat, just sit quietly and starve.
Sit quietly and starve. Why?
If a business fails and your company collapses, realize you came into this world with nothing, you will leave with nothing, so it is no big deal.
The list is intentionally provocative.
Obviously.
The author is systematically stripping away every single layer of worldly attachment that humans cling to for a sense of identity and security.
Family, shelter, health, wealth.
And even biological survival itself.
Sit quietly and starve. I mean, I have to ask you, listening to this right now, could you actually do that?
It's a huge ask.
The text even addresses interpersonal conflict. It says, if someone fancies something of yours, let them take it.
Just hand it over.
Yeah. If you've been deceived or taken advantage of, the prescribed response is, so what? I'll die sooner or later anyway.
Right.
Could you truly look at someone actively stealing your money or destroying your reputation and genuinely smile, as the text suggests?
Yeah.
To our modern ears, this sounds like a prescription for ultimate victimhood.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it does sound like victimhood if you view it through the lens of ego.
Okay, how else do you view it?
We need to examine the psychological mechanism of how a person achieves this.
Oh.
How do you decouple your survival instinct from your sense of self?
Right.
It requires a fundamental shift in observation. Cognitive behavioral therapy actually touches on a similar concept.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Instead of identifying as the trauma thinking, I am ruined or I am a failure, the enlightened mind observes the event as a temporary external condition.
Bankruptcy is occurring. Illness is present.
Exactly. The text advocates for observing these events without letting them penetrate the core of your consciousness.
So the pain of the illness or, the sting of the divorce is still physically or practically happening in the real world.
Yes.
But the suffering, the mental anguish we add on top of the event by resisting it is eliminated.
Which brings us to the profound, almost terrifying power hidden in this philosophy.
What's that?
Following that brutal list of tragedies, the author provides a repeated refrain.
Okay.
The text declares, if you want me to hate you, no way. If you want me to be angry, no way. If you want me to be afraid, no way. If you want me to be anxious, no way.
No way. It effectively neutralizes the leverage anyone or anything has over you.
Absolutely.
I mean, if a boss tries to manipulate you by threatening your job and you genuinely do not care about the status or the income of that job, that boss has zero power.
Zero. By entirely relinquishing control over external circumstances, whether it's the economy, the opinions of your peers, or your own physical health, the individual gains absolute unbreakable control over their internal state.
That is incredibly empowering.
You cannot be manipulated if you do not desire anything. You cannot be threatened if you do not fear loss.
Wow.
It is the ultimate psychological defense mechanism, achieved ironically through ultimate surrender.
So after letting go of everything, the need for justice, the drive for survival, the pride of the ego, the author arrives at a final vision.
A beautiful one, too.
Yeah, the text concludes with these words, everything is so beautiful, so perfectly ordered, everything is so fair, so pleasing to the heart and eye.
It's a total shift in perspective.
It ends with the individual resting peacefully in the embrace of what the text calls the primordial Buddha, or the greatest creator.
To clarify those terms for a modern context, when the author mentions the greatest creator or the primordial Buddha, they aren't necessarily referring to a deity sitting on a throne. They are describing the underlying source code of the universe.
The Tao.
Yes, it is the ultimate intelligent order of reality that we align with when we finally stop fighting against what simply is.
Yeah.
To synthesize the core takeaway from this deep dive, we spend so much of our lives trying to acquire enough money, enough influence, or enough knowledge to force the world to behave the way we want it to.
We really do.
But this text argues that true freedom isn't the power to bend the universe to your will. True freedom is simply eliminating the friction between your desires and reality.
Because if you have zero demands of the universe, there's zero friction.
Exactly.
Reality just does what reality does, and you are just watching the wave roll in.
You're just the surfer.
It is a lot to process, especially for those of us who pride ourselves on our ambition. But I want to leave you with a brand new idea to chew on as we wrap this up. We usually think of detachment as checking out, as becoming less effective. But think about the people who are the most stressed, the most prone to making terrible, reactive decisions in business or in relationships.
Oh, yeah.
It's usually the people who are gripping the steering wheel the tightest, right? The ones whose entire identity will shatter if they don't get a specific result.
The friction of their attachment completely clouds their judgment.
Exactly. So if you actually manage to achieve this state of total detachment, if you treated your career, your social standing, and even your daily survival as a mere game, as the celestial being does,
Yeah.
would that lack of panic ironically make you better and more effective at navigating the chaos of modern life?
That is a fascinating thought.
Right. Are the people who care the least about winning actually the ones who have the clearest heads to play the game the best?
By giving up the desperate, ego-driven need to win, you strip away the anxiety that causes mistakes. You might actually become the most capable, adaptable player on the board.
Something to really think about the next time you feel your blood pressure rising over, an email or a traffic jam.
Absolutely.
In fact, look at your to-do list today.
Mhm.
Find just one thing, just one, that you are agonizing over, that you are trying to force into existence against the natural current.
Just one thing.
And just as an experiment, try simply letting it go. Let the wave pass. See if the world actually ends or if you just feel a little bit more like a celestial being.